Yeah, it's a flaw in my personality that I talk to everybody. And so I went around and I asked people why they were there. I mean, the rally itself was big. It was really big. It was a little younger. There were more young people in it than in the last two. Um, uh, it wasn't young. It was still older, but there were more young people. It was a little more diverse. But here's what I heard from everybody, and it was similar from everybody, and it surprised me, Susan. Like, why are you here? Ugh, because of everything. Could you be a little more specific? Right? And here's where the surprise was, because all the polling tells us we should campaign on affordability. We should talk about affordability. I thought they were going to tell us the price of gas is way up. It's groceries are hard. Rent is tough. What they said was, I love this country, and it's embarrassing what these people are doing to it. This war is disgraceful. This president is a liar. I'm sick of being lied to. I'm sick of all of the hiding. They weren't, and then I would say to them, well, what about, like affordability? So it's a real problem. They acknowledge the real problems, but the thing that brought them out was what was the gap between what they think America is and what this terrible administration is doing around the world and at home, and what this president represents in terms of his honesty, his values, his leadership. There's just this huge gulf, and it's starting to show up in the polls. And that doesn't have anything to do with any one issue. It has to do with a collective decision America has made that this president and his regime do not belong in this country. And I was amazed by that. I was really amazed by that. And it was unanimous everywhere. I mean, that none of these individual issues mattered as much as the collective disgust they have with a president who does not represent our values, who's taking the country in a direction they don't recognize, who's bombing people left and right in violation of laws of war, who's making us criminals because he's a criminal. And people just don't like it. They really don't like it. So that brought everybody out. And as usual, it was celebratory. People were happy to be out. They were happy to be with other people who were happy to be out. They were willing to stand next to people who they really don't agree with. I mean, again, one of the loudest groups is like 4 people carrying an American Communist Party sign, and people like, yeah, whatever, they're there. And I know the right wing is like, oh, we're happy to run against no kings. Look, it's communists and it's trans and the truth is it's all of that, because it's all of America standing on the other side of them.
Yeah, I went to the protest in Lansing, Michigan, where I live. And one of my favorite signs was somebody who wrote, "I'm tired of living in an Onion article." And I think that kind of gets at the sentiment that you were encountering. I noticed at protests, I mean, there were like 3,300 across the country. It looks like 8 million people protested. So that's even more than the No Kings 2 in October, and bigger than No Kings 1. But, in addition to seeing the many celebrities who are out there, which, gets attention, like Robert De Niro in New York, Bruce Springsteen headlined in Minneapolis, which was the flagship rally because of what ICE has done there. Bill Nye the Science Guy was out. Jimmy Kimmel was at the rally. But what warmed my heart really was seeing the protests in a lot of deep red areas. And these are the protests where sometimes it was just like 15 or 20 people. Sometimes it was hundreds, like in Lafayette, Indiana. We had lots of people who were generous enough to send in their photos and videos. But, we were seeing protests in places like Graybull, Wyoming, Driggs, Idaho, Cobb County, Tennessee, places where Trump won by like not just 10 points, but 40 points. And people were disgusted enough and brave enough to go out there and to make their voices heard. And I think that, that sends quite a message.
The right wing doxers, the bullies, the ones who've been all over, the ones who threaten the kids of judges, they think if they're just brutal enough and mean enough and they sign up and join ICE and beat up Americans enough, Americans will fold. And guess what? That's not who Americans are. We see them coming, and you know what? We're going to stand up, and people are happy to stand up. I mean, this happened in the Civil War. There was all of this bravado in the South. Oh, them Yankees are just going to fold. And you know what? The Yankees didn't fold. They brushed themselves off. They got whooped in the first fight in Bull Run, and they said, "Yeah, well, it's all right. Figure it out. We're going to come back, and we're going to keep fighting." These guys, they think they can bully America. They think we will fold. And, you know, my message to Enrique Tarrio and to all of these guys who are now, by the way, suing the federal government, and Donald Trump is going to personally, out of make us taxpayers, pay them in a settlement, pay them for what they did on January 6th. Sorry, guys, we won't forget it. We will not forget this. And we aren't folding. We aren't afraid of you. That's why 8 million of us showed up. That's why people showed up in your damn backyard where you think you control everything. Get over it, fellas. We are coming for you.
So the next event is on May 1st, which is International Labor Day. And this is a call for a general strike. So this is different than what we've seen before.
Very different.
This is no work, no school, no shopping. And this is not just, we've seen calls for this, but this is the organizers of No Kings, Indivisible. They're calling for massive action. And I thought it was appropriate for us to talk about that, Edwin, because of course, International Labor Day has its roots in Chicago with the Haymarket, affair back in 1886. It was a workers' protest. It did turn violent. There were police and civilians who were killed. There was a giant backlash. But as a result of that, that gave birth to what we know as International Labor Day, May Day. And I know we were used to celebrating Labor Day in the fall, but that's more of a modern construction. And that was a blatant attempt to kind of excise some of the more radical elements of, what we were saying. And just to put this in context, I mean, this was the height of industrial capitalist exploitation in this country, where people were working 16-hour days. Child labor was the norm. All things that, we've seen Republicans attempt to literally bring back. In southern states, they are passing laws to make child labor easier. As we speak,
meatpacking plants in Iowa right now, little kids working the night shift, getting injured. It's terrible. It's absolutely
this fight is not over, but it's this is a conscious effort for us to reclaim some of that history that we have, and to make a stand not just against Donald Trump, but against a lot of the institutions, the businesses who have been propping him up for the last year. Edwin, what do you think? Do you think that this is going to reach reach a mass audience the way that we had this on a scale in Minneapolis, where they were successful? They did shut down the city for a day.
Yeah. I don't know, Susan. I really don't know. It's so much harder than it used to be to put to a real strike like this, in part because of the reasons that we want to do it. And those reasons are, they go beyond Donald Trump. They go to the structure of the modern economy, which is very exploitive of people. And I think, not exploitive exactly the way it was in the 1890s and 1920s, but very exploitive. And we see it. And why it makes a strike harder is that the companies have figured out how to make you not buy anything, but subscribe for everything. So they have their hand in your pocket, whether you reach in or not. There's money is going out every month, right? And to many subscriptions, many that people don't know they have, and they're paying for music that way. They're paying for, and there's credit card debt that gets, interest accrues every month. So the structure, that one of the reasons why these general strikes matter is it's not just about Donald Trump. It's not just about the companies that support him, but it's a reminder to us that when we win, we have to change the balance so that ordinary Americans aren't exploited in the incredible way that we all are, so that profits can accrue. And that isn't the only, I'm all for profit. Don't get me wrong. I've run businesses. I think it's a lovely thing for a business to make a profit, but it isn't the only thing we value. It is not the only thing we value. We have a duty to the people who work in these companies, who make them profitable. We have a duty to the communities they're in. All of this is something that America once understood and has forgotten. And the structure of economy, again, it makes these protests more difficult, but it's one of the reasons we have them. And it is one of the reasons why, and Donald Trump is all bought into this, all bought into it.